Will the Fire Nico chants finally end now that Nico Harrison has had a press conference? Probably not.
And now they're starting the anti-front office chants again. They've been chanting Fire Nico throughout most of the first half.
He came out and basically said,
defense wins championships, and we are hanging our hat on defense.
Now, obviously, it's pretty childish to just continue saying a cliche over and over again to almost every kind of question that's surrounding the Luka trade. But is he right? Is Nico Harrison, the most hated man in the NBA, the only one who saw it correctly that Luka Dončić can't win a championship because of his defense? Does defense matter that much in order to win a championship? Well, I dove deep into the defensive analytics over the last 20 years of the NBA Finals, and while it's clear that having a good-ish defense is a requirement for an NBA champion, it definitely doesn't have to be elite. Not every NBA champion was the 2004 Detroit Pistons with a defensive rating of 96.1, anchored by one of the best defending big men of all time, Ben Wallace. No, actually, the average defensive rating for an NBA champion over the last 20 years is 108.3.
Meh. What do you mean, meh? Meh.
That's not that great when you think about it, but it does make sense because the NBA is an offense-driven league, where teams like the 2021 Milwaukee Bucks with a defensive rating of 114.5 or the 2016 Cavs with a defensive rating of 114.2 could win it all. While defensive ratings don't give you a complete picture, they do give you an idea of how well a defense held up against the opposing team. And when you look at last year's Dallas Mavericks finals team, they weren't that far off with 112 defensive rating. Plenty of teams over the last 20 years have won with worse or comparable defensive ratings. But even if it were true, like Nico has said so often,
defense wins championships.
A good team defense doesn't necessarily mean that each of your players, and particularly your guards, are great defenders. If you take Luka's performance last year, where his defensive rating was much lower than his team's defensive rating, by the way, it was 105.7, and he was a +7 on the court, and you compare that to each player at Luka's position on the championship teams over the last 20 years, Luka ranks better than 15 of them. And even if you average all those defensive ratings of those players, it's 105.4, which is only 0.3 off of Luka's numbers last year in the finals. So at the very worst, you could say that Luka's defense was on par with every NBA champion of his position over the last 20 years. So even if the reason why Dallas did not win a championship last year, or why Nico Harrison is now saying he traded the young superstar, was because
defense wins championships,
it's clear Luka was not the primary problem defensively. It's important to remember that basketball is very much a team sport. Every player has a role to play on a team. Ben Wallace wasn't supposed to average 16 points a game when Detroit was in their dynasty. No, that was Rip Hamilton's job. Ben was supposed to block shots, rebound like a monster, and rock that fro and headband combination while doing it.
Detroit ends it on a high note, and then they just add exclamation point after exclamation point.
In the same way, Luka's job is to play to his strengths, which is scoring the ball and putting his teammates in the best position to score. That's why he averaged 29 points and 6 assists in the finals. Any good general manager can see that his strengths are on offense, and then could have built a team that could cover his supposed defensive weaknesses while capitalizing on those offensive strengths. That's the team they had last year. It's why they almost won a championship. A smart general manager would see that and try to tweak the team. Add some defenders who could cover for your offensively driven MVP candidate. But what did Nico do after the finals appearance? He went out and signed 35-year-old Klay Thompson and Spencer Dinwiddie. Neither are known for their defensive talents. Both are bigger defensive liabilities than Luka Dončić.
Defense wins championships.
No, Nico didn't tweak the team to fit into this mindset of defense wins championships. He reshaped the team completely. So again, is the most hated man in the NBA right now the only one who saw what needed to be done and had the strength to do it, knowing the criticism he would open himself up to? Is Nico Harrison right?
Defense wins championships.
No! Absolutely not. In fact, the stats tell the complete opposite story. Defense is important and can give you a leg up on the competition, but unlike other sports, it is not everything in the NBA. Common sense also says Nico is wrong because other players could have been added to this roster to help shape a defensive culture like what Nico Harrison has been describing. The fact is, Nico didn't have to trade Luka. He wanted to trade Luka. Why? Only Nico really knows the answer to that question, but it's clear that fans are right to be so upset, and commentators are right to keep criticizing this move. Time will tell just how bad this trade will ultimately look, but every time Anthony Davis heads to the bench grabbing his ankle and looking like his season just ended, only to get back on the court 8 minutes later, the camera better pan to Nico. Every single time. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more.